Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to episode 5 of No Reservations, Kasey Anton's Guide to Restaurant Success. So, this episode is quote unquote all about leveraging technology. And I laugh at that. I laughed when I saw this on my roster of podcast episodes to get out in the world because I would be the last person that anyone should ask about leveraging technology. But then I thought about that. Because actually, maybe I am the right or the very first person you should ask. So, and here's why. There is tons of technology out there, right? I would say every day another 3 million tech things are born, right? Apps, software, you name it, plugins, they're all constantly evolving. And I'm sure they're all great in some respects. But who has the wherewithal, the time, the energy, the mental bandwidth to learn about, let alone get trained in yet another piece or form of technology? I tell you who doesn't, me. And you know who else? Any restaurant or pretty much business owner, but definitely restaurant owner I know. We don't have the time for that. So what I think is important about this particular episode is for me to tell you, the listener, that it's okay if you don't have the latest and greatest and most cutting edge, newest invention of whatever new tech is out there for businesses and restaurants in general. It's more than okay. You do what works for you. Now, I needed to get that out there, and let me just say that. Because here, from a financial standpoint, here is what I find. More often than not, there are a lot of business owners out there that have that shiny object syndrome, right? Most of them admit this to me on our initial deep dive call, especially when they're trying to do profit first and they're trying to get that OPEX percentage down. Like, yeah, like I have shiny object syndrome, meaning they love to go, buy the latest and greatest, whatever. And it might even be cheap to start with. Maybe they'll sign up for a new app that's, $12.99 a month, and then they forget about it, or it increases and they don't feel like figuring out where the phone number is to dispute it or whatever it is, and they let it go on and on and on. You know what I'm talking about. This happens all the time. But even beyond that, beyond just trying to curb people of the shiny object syndrome in general, because it ends up being very costly, do you have the mental bandwidth to learn a whole new technology language? Because that's usually no joke. Let me give you an example here of here at Spark. So in my consulting firm, one of my divisional directors, lead accountants, been with me a very long time. She has a shiny object syndrome in a way. I think I've helped curb that a little bit. And she has the best intentions by far at heart, because she'll say, oh, here's a new app and it'll do this for us and it'll be so great. It'll make this so much faster. And while all that's coming from the right place, and maybe down the road, it can figure out how to fetch bank statements faster and actually like load them and, put them in chronological order and title them accurately in our SharePoint. I mean, maybe it can. Side note, it can't. None of them can, but maybe it can eventually do that. But here's the thing. Do I really have the mental energy, time, bandwidth, whatever you want to call it, to go look into this new app or software, figure out what exactly it does, how it does it? Okay, so that's one piece. That's just the initial research piece of it, right? Then if I have the time and the mental energy and can understand the language that this new app or software is telling me, maybe even meet with them and have them explain it to me, and I actually get it, which might be a little bit rare, but if they actually get it all. So that's just step one. Step two is, okay, so now I'm going to implement this new thing. So there's going to be some type of learning curve, not only for myself, but most likely for at least part of my team, if not my entire team. And then in addition to that, if it doesn't work absolutely perfectly from minute one, day one, then that's just going to be more time and energy wasted out the window in trying to learn or get something new to actually work correctly. Because normally when it comes to technology and apps, there's some type of mapping or syncing that it needs to do with another app. For example, QuickBooks, maybe QuickBooks Online loves to say that it integrates with everything under the sun. And maybe it does in some way, shape, or form, but most not well. As a matter of fact, what we have found, and we've been using QuickBooks I've been using it for about 25 years, but so in my firm for over 15 years, QuickBooks Desktop, but mostly online now, QuickBooks Online, we have probably played around and worked with 100, 150 different apps that all say, we integrate with QuickBooks Online. Yep, but you suck at it and you've created a mess of the books and now I have to redo it. So I have to say that 9 times out of 10, if we sync something and it doesn't work, we just completely unsync it and just do it a manual way. And it's faster. Believe it or not, it's faster. Now down the road, if that app or software got its act together and actually figures out a way to sync where it's seamless, would it save us time? Maybe, but I doubt it. Because just in our line of work, we're really good at figuring out the quickest way to get to from point A to point B in an efficient, simple, yet extremely accurate fashion that it's usually way easier than having to dick around with some type of syncing software that literally doesn't sync at all. And we find this all the time. As a matter of fact, over the years, I think we have shrunk our tech stack. So tech stack, a technology stack, which is the technologies that we choose to work with in the firm. It was getting a little bloated for a while. That's because of my shiny object person. And we immediately started doing away with things that were nice, but did we need them? No. Could we live without them? Yeah. And now for me, the sign of success for a successful and efficiently run and profitable business of any kind is the smallest tech stack imaginable. Because if you think about it, if you keep adding to your technology stack, your tech stack, that means that every single person that comes to work for you or with you in some way, shape, or form, now you have to train them on it. And then you have to hope they don't mess up with it, because that's going to mean redoing something, right? Which is more time, energy, and bandwidth. So overall, sometimes it's just easier to go the simple route of, for what we do, manual entry on certain things. Now, getting back to the restaurants. I was recently at the New England Restaurant and Bar Show. I was there this past weekend, so Sunday and Monday. I had the opportunity to speak, which was awesome. I had such a great time. I met some amazing people, vendors, and certainly restaurateurs. I loved every second of that. But there were a ton of other trade show booths there that were technology driven. So as a matter of fact, on the very last day of the show, myself and one of my team members, and actually my intern, I said, I want to go around to every one of the technology booths. So I'd already done all the food, beer, wine, Red Bull, water booths. That was fun. I did all that. I said, let's go to the technology booths and let's see what's out there. Just see what's out there. And and this is the other thing I did. As I went up to the booth and very nicely, introduced myself and complimented their booth or whatnot, I'd say, all right, can you give me your pitch in under 30 seconds? And will I understand exactly what you do? And none of them could do it. I mean, they could tell me something in under 30 seconds, but was it representative of what it is that they were selling? No, not at all. They all needed several minutes of my time, which they got. But even after several minutes, I still had a zillion questions. I didn't get it. And I don't have time for that. But I was doing this on behalf of my clients, my audience, restaurateurs, to figure out, hey, is there anything there for them? But dude, if I can't get it in under 30 seconds, they're certainly not going to get it in under 30 seconds, and it's not worth it. So this is what I would say about, technology when it comes to restaurants. You should have a point of sale. I'll give you that. I think that's certainly better than having the old checkbook with the carbon copy. Okay. Let's face it. I mean, you should have those, by the way, for a crash cart when technology goes down, or when the lights go out, electricity goes out in the middle of a busy night and you still need to serve drinks or whatever it is. I love having a crash box for technology. I think that's a great, I'm actually going to write that down. Maybe I'll create that, a crash tech box. So I think it's good to have those. But no, other than that, everyone should have a point of sale. Toast was there at the show. We do like Toast. It's very intuitive and user friendly on both interfaces. Both, I think, from the server and bartender point of view, also from the accountant point of view, also from the owner point of view. So we do like Toast in that way. Um, it will sync well with QuickBooks with a third party app. You have to use extra chefs. So there's three things involved there. You can't just go Toast to QuickBooks. It does not work. It's a nightmare. Trust me, you've been there. So that does, you just need to bring in that third party. So it'll cost you more, but it does integrate nicely. If it's mapped correctly, it does work beautifully. You just have to make sure that mapping stays intact. So the problem, whenever you sync a point of sale, any point of sale, Square is like the number one problem child when it comes to this with an accounting software like QuickBooks. The minute you add in a new menu item, a new even modifier, if it's not already mapped to QuickBooks, it's going to send everything in a tizzy and you're going to create a nightmare for yourselves. So in that way, I do like syncing, but somebody needs to be in charge and staying on top of it all the time. When anything changes, even the smallest thing, you got to be on top of that syncing, that mapping. Otherwise, it's going to create a mess, which takes 3 or more times longer to fix than to have done it manually or done it right in the first place. So that's what I would say about that. So Toast was there. There was also a big point of sale company called Catalyst. Huge. I think they were a sponsor of the event. I'd never even heard of them, but they were there. Spot On, they were right near me. They were there. I didn't even see Square there. I didn't see Clio there. So there was a few small ones that weren't there, but a bunch were there. And I think that every restaurant should have a point of sale where you can get good reporting out of, which breaks down your food, beverage sales, and then you should be able to easily pull up your top sellers, things like that. I think that's really important to have, and I like that. Does it need to sync with your accounting software? Not necessarily, but if it does it well and easily, great. If not, it doesn't need to. We have developed this very simplified daily journal entry where we can go in every couple of weeks, download the information that we need from the point of sale, and then manually enter in daily journal entries to capture the information that we want to see. And literally it takes us about an hour or less to do that for a month or for a few weeks. And it's more accurate. So we kind of like to do it that way unless the syncing is perfect. Again, it's just rare to find. So for back to restaurant tech stack, you should have a point of sale that you love and that's easy to use and that's very user friendly from all the different users that get in. From myself as the accountant, certainly the business owner should be number one, and to your servers and anyone back of the house or front of the house that needs access to it. And we work with a few, and happy to talk to you about ones that we do like to work with, and certainly ones that we don't really like at all. So that there's that. Open Table can be pricey. I like it. It's kind of the Microsoft, I think, of reservation systems. It does a great job, and it ain't cheap. I mean, maybe they shouldn't be cheap because they obviously put money back into it. So I do like a reservation system. I know there's Resi as well, which looks fine. I've not actually seen the back of the house interface with Resi. I've seen that with Open Table. So I like a reservation system. And I would say that would be the number 2 if you can afford that, to have a reservation. And obviously if you take reservations, because you can capture some really amazing customer data. So when that customer has a reservation and they come back in, it's so nice not to only use their name. Hi, Mr. Jones, great to see you again. Things like that, but also what their favorite things are. Oh, we're having a special on this amazing tomahawk steak tonight. I know that you love steak when you come in. Like, that stuff's golden. So reservation system would probably be my second priority after your point of sale. Now, beyond that, there's Margin Edge, which does inventory systems. I mean, there's lots of other things that go on out there. Are they necessary? I think maybe for the chains and the larger restaurants, probably a good idea to at least spend some of your time, energy, and bandwidth researching some of those. Again, if you're a high volume bar, if you're multi units, things like that, I would highly recommend that. If you're not, if you're, 1.2, 1.3 million or less, I don't think you necessarily need those shiny objects. You need the point of sale. You need a reservation system to take reservations. I would highly, highly recommend you get those two. Beyond that, I think there are other what we call down and dirty ways to get the job done when it comes to inventory. Pretty easy spreadsheet can do the job for you just as well. And then you actually need a human being to accurately count anyway. And I can talk to you all day long about how important inventory is, and it should be done, but it has to be done by a human. So you might as well just do it on a spreadsheet. I don't feel like a software is going to do an any better job, or a scale. I don't know, man. I think a scale can go off the rails. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say about technology. I mean, were you here and listening to find what's cutting edge and next? Wrong person, wrong place for that. As much as I try and dabble, like, oh, what's this? Could this be something cool? Everything out there is cumbersome, that I find to be, for a restaurant owner that's got bigger fish to fry than looking for the latest and greatest whatever. Because the last piece is, I'd say the other tech thing that we saw at the show, which I thought was interesting, was for employee benefits, not for health insurance, for actually employee like bonuses. It was interesting. I thought that the idea behind it was interesting, where you could actually run contests through this employee type of benefit system, where you could say whoever sells the most bottles of wine this month will win a prize, and the system will track that. Apparently it plugs into any point of sale, which I thought was unbelievable that it's able to do that. But the gentleman that was running the booth and also was co-founder said it does. And then it will send a text message off hours, by the way. I was horrified when he says it'll text your staff of how many bottles of wine they're away from winning or whatever it was. And I was like, you're going to text my staff in the middle of the service? He's like, no, they would do it. You could set the time. It could be at midnight. It could be at 8, whatever. I thought that was interesting, and it might be worth looking into, but you could go anti-technology on that, and you could just run a contest with paper, or using your point of sale reports at the end of the night. Okay, let me see what server sold the most desserts tonight. That should be an easy report to run in any point of sale, and it still gets the job done, and you didn't have to go out and research and buy a new software that you may or may not use, that you may or may not have the time to learn, that may or may not work correctly. There's just other ways to get it done. So while I know I might sound a little too old school for some out there, what I did learn from listening to all of the panelists at the different educational series speakers that were going on at the show, I'd say they were all very similar to me. Is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Technology is great, but you don't need it for everything. And sometimes a good old pencil, pen, or paper, or even a spreadsheet is kind of the way to go, and it gets the job done, and there's no added expense to that. So that is my talk. That is my high-end talk on technology in the restaurant industry, or at least my take on that. I am, as always, eager, excited, and happy to hear any feedback, any comments, any questions that you have on this topic, or any topic as well. So that is it. Thanks so much for watching and or listening. Have a great day.